Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going to have a look at Chainlink, and before we actually look at it, we're going to turn off some of this noise, because I hear a lot of you getting just wonder why my chats are so noisy, and I agree. I suppose they're there for me, but if you don't know what you're looking at, then I suppose you don't need them. So we'll get rid of a lot of this stuff, to be honest. We'll just get rid of it for this video. We don't really need it for what I'm about to talk about. So Chainlink isn't something I normally speak about. It is just it's just another coin, isn't it, really, that I bought down at 50 cents, and I've kept it ever since, really. It's always been part of my portfolios, and it's not even something I trade. It's basically, when you look at a chart like this, which basically just goes up all the time, you should think, well, I'll buy it and I'll hold it and I'll just leave it. And that was a really good strategy until 2021, and it had a massive bubble pop. But it started to move again, and again, when you look at this chart, it is relatively nondescript. It doesn't really look like much at all, to be honest with you, and I would agree with you. Doesn't look like any reason for it to pump. When you look at something like this, you go, well, what's it doing? Why is it moving when the rest of the market is going down? Why is this moving up? And the key, my friends, is tucked away in the Satoshis, the secrets in the sats, and we'll have a look at the Bitcoin pair. So this is what I think is the main reason, right? This is the main reason. So we see a similar kind of move, right? What would you rather have, Bitcoin or Chainlink? Well, for the vast majority of its life, it would have been Chainlink, really. It's only recently that that Bitcoin outperformed it when it started to go parabolic. So August 2020. That's when it really started. That's when Bitcoin really started to run up, right, massively, and yeah, we didn't get the same kind of move with Chainlink. Chainlink suddenly out of the blue decided to change from its previous behavior as the supercharged altcoin that everybody wanted to basically just forgotten about, really, just forgotten about. So when I say the secrets in the sats, you can see that these two charts look quite different, right? I mean, they're the same in their run-up, but since then, there's no real pattern to the situation going on with dollar or tether, but there certainly is one going on with sats, right? So we've got this enormous descending triangle, to which we've found a breakout of, right? So this has been going on for ages, absolutely bloody ages, right? So that's the peak. We've just broken out here. It's been going on for like a year and a half. A consolidation for a year and a half. Now, I look at a lot of coins, right? And we don't really look at Chainlink that much, but we have had this in here for a while, and the normal way to trade any kind of formation like this, especially one that's been going on for a year and a half, is to wait for it to break out. And it doesn't mean you go straight in on it, which a lot of people will have done, because it won't be just me that's seen this. This is a very obvious setup here, and some people would have gone to town on it. Some people would have gone, oh, we've broken out, let's go crazy, and just buying it and causing, I suppose, the pump really that we're seeing at the moment, a sustained pump. But that's not the best way, I suppose, to trade this. One thing you could do is you could try and, once we've found where the supports are, generally, you could try dollar cost averaging from 4,000 sats down to these lows down at 350 sats, sorry, 3,500 sats. You could try that, but that again is trying to catch a knife. And we do get hurt doing that, and we've been hurt on some of these things where we try to do that on this channel. We try to get clever and buy these supports, but when you're in a consolidation like this, then you do have to wait for the consolidation to be over before you can at least get some form of instant gratification, especially when you're consolidating for basically a year and a half. So now we've broken out of it. This is probably going to be a turnaround point for Chainlink, and for those who like to know what the measured moves are and what sort of moon boy targets we've got, so we'll go from the absolute low to the breakout here. It does point to a brand new high versus its Satoshi parents of 18,000 sats, above 18,000 sats. That doesn't mean it's going to reach that tomorrow, but what we're seeing here is a change of behavior. So a consolidation of an enormous size ending, and behavior changing, right? So it does look quite positive. It doesn't mean you should harvest your kidneys today, sell your children on eBay tomorrow so you can buy more Chainlink. That's not what it means, because something like this doesn't necessarily have to go straight up. But what it could do would be to creep back up in this kind of fashion, right? So we've broken out of a large consolidation. We could end up seeing a long slow and steady increase of Chainlink's value versus Bitcoin, which would be the best scenario. You can see that on the tether pairing, we don't really have that kind of we can't really say that it's broken out of anything versus its dollar pair here. You could have one like kind of triangle starting from there, you could have another one kind of going from here, you could have another one going from here. It's not neat. It's not as neat as the Satoshi pairings, which is why I think if you were to look at this, you'd be like, well, what's it doing? Why is it outperforming the market? Why, when market down, Chainlink up? Don't understand it. I think it's as simple as that. Formations are useful. Triangles can be useful. They're very basic trading strategies, and they're very simple. But if you were to look at the tether pairing, you'd be like, I don't understand it. But now we can look at the tether pairing and go, all right. So we understand now why there's been a push up against the against a downwards market. So a light of green in a sea of red is what we've got here with Chainlink. So what are we going to look for now? How can we be certain that this is going to go up, and what are our targets? Those targets being in dollars. What are we going to look at? If we're expecting an enormous, massive pump, or at least an uptrend will eventually creep up to its previous high, which would be from this point here to this point here being 157% versus its Bitcoin pair. You can only assume that that would be a larger move versus its dollar pair, because if the market turns around, which it eventually will do, we'll be making a higher high than this, because if the market turns around together and Bitcoin goes up in value, Chainlink goes up in value, but Chainlink outperforms Bitcoin, we're going to be looking at higher areas than $53, right? I mean, the measured move versus Bitcoin was already 150%, and that was just short of 100. So we could be looking at a Chainlink sort of creeping and edging its way into the hundreds, maybe even more than that. So this is all very speculative, because what we're waiting for is an uptrend to begin, and all we've seen so far is a breakout. So let's have a look over here. What's the clues? How far can this go? I mean, and what relationship have we got to moving averages? So at the moment, we're above all major moving averages here. All major moving averages on the daily. We're trying to break above the cloud. We're pushing the outer rim of this Bollinger Band, and this is all nice and good. And I can tell you now that this cloud versus the Ichimoku cloud here literally just drops off a cliff, goes to zero. Well, not zero. It drops massively. So which means that when we come out of this area here in February, and probably it'll be the end of February when it really has it, that's unless we can hold this current value or higher, because we want this Chiku span, which is this little squiggly line here, to be above the cloud as well. We're going to have some epic setups here for some nice big punchy moves up. I mean, the obvious places are going to be over here around about 34, 35 sats. That would be the first move, but that with this current trajectory, this current style of move at the moment, that could be done by the end of next week. Not saying it's going to, but momentum's not slowing. There's no bearish divergence. We're not overextended on money flow or anything like that. So there's no reason why we can't pump up that far already. And if that was the case, then we would certainly get one of these signals, and that signal could pump us up basically towards the all-time high versus its dollar pairing, which again all sounds pretty crazy, when everybody's calling for bear markets. But these are the sort of things you got to look for, really. And there is power in sats. There's an interesting turn of events, really, that's been going on since the alt season began in January. Last January, obviously not this January, which is that Bitcoin dominance has crushed down to a pretty much its major low of about 40%, and since then it's been it's refusing to break down, and it's struggling to break up. So it's kind of in this no man's land where basically the market seems to trend almost exactly as one. If certain things are overextended, or if they're weak, or if they've got liquidity issues, then yeah, they dump pretty hard. But other things aren't dumping as hard, and a lot of things are just dumping more or less at the same pace as Bitcoin. I think that's something we're going to see a little bit more frequently, unless, of course, we're talking super shit coins with massive liquidity issues. Things on Kucoin, basically, as you've all recognised, have poor liquidity. This is why my preference is to have way more available in Binance for liquidity issues, yeah? But there are amazing opportunities in places like Kucoin and Gate.io if you're ready to take the risk on low cap coins, because if you buy something low where the liquidity is low at the time, but then you get lucky, or you've applied some analysis on that, then then yeah, you're at the bottom of the pile, and any penny that falls on top of your head becomes yours. So let's have a look. So the 4 hourly is massively bullish over here. Obviously, everything's bullish. I would say versus its 4 hour pair. We'll just have a look at on Tether in a minute. Golden cross just formed on the 12 hourly, so that's great. So we'll move that over to the Tether pairing. No golden cross yet on the 12 hourly. We must have one by now on the 4 hourly. Yeah, we do. We've got one over here on the 4 hourly. Retesting as well, this 50 exponential as well, which is quite neat. So it's looking very neat. I do like the look of the way this looks. So for it to head towards $35 in the next few weeks or so without any further signals doesn't seem to. It's not an inappropriate thing to say. And then when we get that signal, it could easily push quite close, I would say, towards its all-time high versus its dollar pairing, which is about $50. I would imagine that there'll be a lot of front running of that, because we saw the same thing take place with Atom, didn't we? Atom pumped literally right up to its all-time high and then consolidated. Well, it didn't even consolidate. It dropped off really, really quickly because technically everyone thinks it's a bear market. Everyone's afraid of the bear market. So it wouldn't. I think 35 and then up to 42 would be the areas of significance, and these areas could easily get, well, not easily, but it wouldn't be unlikely to see these areas get tagged relatively soon. So we've got very strong levels of resistance. Oh, that's so annoying. Why is it doing that? Very strong levels of resistance up at this 35 zone. We'll see if that gets pierced. If we get the push up to there before we get the signal generated on the Ichimoku cloud, then a rejection from here and then a further push up could easily push us up to the next level, which is about 42 to 43. So that's in the short term. This is what I would be expecting. Now, obviously, the market is going to be affected by whatever Bitcoin does, and Bitcoin, it looks to me like it wants to print a low around this kind of area. You know, if we break down below 36,000, then yeah, I would be thinking of bear market territory. But until then, yeah, I think every leg down here, every little tap down does print and has currently been printing bullish divergence on the hourly, 2 hourly, 4 hourly, just not on the other time frames. But they don't look. It doesn't look too bad at this level. It does look quite appealing. And my buy order for Bitcoin was picked up yesterday, first time since we broke down from here. So sold a fair bit here, limiting my exposure basically, not going all out. Obviously, that's not my style. Limiting exposure here, and then sort of waiting for this area to be tagged, which it was yesterday. So picked up some more Bitcoin yesterday, which means that, you know, I'm feeling quite optimistic around these zones, upper 30s to basically where we are right now as being a potential low, and then getting some relief across the board. So when I'm talking about this, you know, Chainlink reaching up to this 35 to 43, sounds moon boyish, because everybody will be like, but no, it's bear market, man, it's bear market. It's not that unrealistic, given the fact that we've come out of a year and a half consolidation, and now we've found a breakout. Now, normally what you'd see, because we've seen this is what a bear market looks like, a real one. So it's a year and a half long downtrend. That's a bear market, a proper one. So it would be realistic to expect an accumulation within this area. And let's just say that the accumulation will slice through the price action, and we'll go for around this, and we'll extend this support here. So this could be the accumulation zone, which obviously is an enormous zone, right? It's about 100%, isn't it? Over 100%. We'll just measure that from here to here. Yeah, it's about 80. Okay, so that's an appropriate range to play, actually, for an accumulation period, which means that, you know, it doesn't have to happen. This could just go straight up. This could continue up. We've got momentum on the lower term time frames, but if it didn't, what we would see is things like this. Maybe a retest, maybe a worst case scenario, and then finally a breakout. An accumulation within this range would be an appropriate thing to do, because it's been consolidating for a year and a half. So now there's going to be a pump. There could quite easily be a bit of a dump at appropriate levels, considering the fear that's in the market right now. And when I say a dump, a pullback. And then people recognize what's going on here. They see that this is an accumulation, and then they start to buy into it for the inevitable push up to its previous all-time high over here. So that it's an interesting chart to look at, like I say, and something that's consolidated for a year and a half and has now broken out of that does show promising signs of full recovery. You know, full recovery versus its Satoshi pairing, which is the best way to trade. I wouldn't say the best way to trade, but in this instance, this has given us the clue, and this has given us the go ahead to say, all right, something's changing with Chainlink now. It's not consolidating anymore, it might not be subject to immediate upside, although that is relatively possible given what we've seen on the lower term timeframes on both Sats and Tether. But worst case scenario, well, other than a full-on bear market for the entire market, which I don't think is going to happen, but worst case scenario, we spend a couple of months within this range and then we break out. And again, if Bitcoin has printed its low and we hang around in here for a little bit, the price for Chainlink versus its dollar pairing will probably also go up anyway out of default. That's in the event of Bitcoin recovering and moving up towards its all-time high, or even just into the 50s, So very speculative, but also TA has been applied to a large extent there, and you can see what I'm talking about. My general expectation, given the fact that there's been a year-long consolidation, would be a period of accumulation, which may take a month or two. And again, that's with its Satoshi pairing. So what that'll do to the dollar value is a different story. We don't know, because we don't know what the price of Bitcoin will be throughout this. We found a breakout for Chainlink in the downtrend for Bitcoin, so it's difficult to put a figure on its dollar value when we're more or less trying to trade and analyze the chart based on its Satoshis. But my expectation is that it would be in a range, maybe this range, probably this range, and it doesn't necessarily have to go down this low, because that again is quite a large range. But accumulations can be quite big, but maybe not that big with a Satoshi pairing, because that would emphasize the dollar value by quite a lot. So maybe we'll be looking at a range from around here, around just short of 5,000 sats to as high as 7,000 sats, give or take, roughly speaking. But the chart looks good, broken out of consolidation, probably going to go into a period of accumulation for, we'll call it a month to 2 months or so, and see where we go from there. But yeah, I'm very pleased with the way that this looks like, and for those Chainlink holders, this is very encouraging, very encouraging. Maybe it'll go back to the super coin it used to be, which was one that basically just continued to outperform Bitcoin indefinitely through thick and thin. Right, thanks everybody, thanks for watching, hope you have a nice day, take it easy.